Okay, next game, America, is the game Fabi versus Gukesh. And this is the opposite of the Wesley game. Wesley was like equal, then Wesley was slightly better, then Wesley was clearly better, and then Wesley won in 51 moves after dogged resistance. In this game, after like 14, 15 moves, Fabi was winning. And then he pushed the wrap it up button, right? But wrap that gavel up, and the game ended pretty quickly. And for the most part, I would say the Indian players, this particular event, aren't doing so well. You know, Iragasi and Gukesh, I thought they'd be fighting for first. Instead, they're fighting for a sandwich.
Mm-hmm. Cook in a smaller room. And the debate rages on.
Yeah. Okay, Simpsons is correct, Grungewort. Very good. So here's what happened. Also, I could be mixing episodes, so I apologize. Lisa took a test at school that everybody took to tell you what you'd be when you grow up. And they said she'd be a homemaker. So she was down on herself the whole episode. And then Marge is trying to explain homemaker's great. And anyway, so then there's a scene where she's dreaming about what her life is going to be like. And she's like, there's a bum fight. And she's like the card girl, like holding up what round it is. And it said they're fighting for a sandwich, the bums. They're like, whoever wins gets a sandwich. So, yeah. And so forth. And then Martin was systems analyst, which he was very happy about. I think I'm mixing episodes, but you get the point. Okay, so Fabi's white. And here's a tough one for Karen.
What?
Okay, so they played this, right? Okay, and this is some kind of Vienna and Ragozin and all that. Thanks, HB Sabri, for 5 subs. You're the best. Okay, after Queen A4 check, which was played, what should black do?
I guess knight c6.
Correct. Yay. So white doesn't want his queen on A4. He just wants black to play knight c6, so black can't play c6 or c5. So white's going to retreat his queen soon.
That would just make you happy, because you love to play. I'm just kind of joking. You love to put your knight on c6.
That's right.
The pawn back.
That's right. I wouldn't mind that. Okay, so e3, castles, queen c2. Now, you could argue this is a queen c2 Nimzo Indian with black up a tempo, and the tempo is this move, which is weird. I'll show you what I mean, because you guys are easily, not understanding.
Hey, bowler.
Okay, now you can play d5 and you can play knight c6, but nobody plays them both. So we're going to play them both. Knight c6, knight here. Now d6 or castles would be the main move. d5, e3. And this is the game position, except, let's see, what's the difference? Black should have an extra move, but I don't see how. Knight c3, knight... Oh, the knight's not on... the knight's on f3. Let me click here so I'm less confused. Okay. So in the game that they played, black has castled. And the variation I gave, which is a queen c2 Nimzo, where black is playing weird, black hasn't castled. So in the actual game, it's a queen c2 Nimzo, white's a tempo down, and black's a tempo up. And he's playing sort of unusual. Now, if you don't like your knight on c6, you can play what Gukesh did, knight e7. That way you can still play c6 or c5, and you can play knight g6 if you want, and so forth. Okay, bishop d2, not the most aggressive. b6, getting the bishop out. a3, 2 bishops, vatos. Okay, and here, I think this is where Gukesh lost the game. He didn't make the losing move. He just had bad ideas. Okay, what I think Gukesh needs to do is get rid of the two bishops. He doesn't agree. Okay, he's like, I'm going to attack, and white's king is on e1, his bishop's on f1, so when I attack in the center, that'll be good enough. And so what black should do in this position is play knight e4, getting his two bishops back. And even if you don't take the bishop, your knight's really good on e4, so that's fine. But he played bishop a6, which attacks the pawn, and obviously if I take this, you can take here and white can't castle, white's two bishops are gone, this bishop is blocked by a lot of pawns. But white plays the more or less obvious b3, and now not only is white defending the pawn, but white's bishop can escape to b2 now after knight e4. So I have the two bishops forever. And the bishop is sort of strange here. Okay, and the engine already doesn't like his position. He played rook c8 with the obvious idea of playing c5. Well, they could have played c5 earlier. And Fabi played rook d1. So if he plays c5, he can open up the file to the black queen here. Black queen doesn't really have anywhere good to go. So this is just good for white. Basically, white has two bishops for nothing. And black isn't playing c5 anytime soon, but he did play c5. Okay, and this is, I don't want to say it's a bad move, but it gives white a nice advantage. White takes, and he opens up the line for his rook and the line for his bishop. So it's really, really nice for white. Rook takes, and then he played queen b2, and there's not really a move here for black. You can't play dc because your queen's hanging. You can't let me play bishop takes knight and queen takes on f6. You can't move your knight and leave your g pawn undefended. So the only moves to consider, I think, are the move that he played, which loses, and knight to e8, which defends this. And this is a pathetic position. White has two bishops, black is super passive, black's rook is trapped, his d pawn is still pinned, etc. Although it might be better than what he did. I don't know. Okay, so instead, he played queen c8, unpinning, and allowing white to do all this stuff. Okay, which I would never play queen c8. If queen c8 was the best move, I would not play it. I wouldn't let the guy play bishop takes and queen takes. I'm not good enough to let him do that. Okay, so Fabi's like, thank you. Now white's up a pawn. Black played knight g6. And in this position, white could play very boring and do nothing and be better. But since the knight's on g6 and the queen is here, white put it in h4. So white's idea is h5 attacking the knight, h6, and queen here mate. So this is very dangerous. Black has to watch out. Okay, he played dc, h5, rook f5 kicking the queen out. Now, the gawking rabble who were in the chat of Svidler and Howell, they said queen a1's the best move because then if he takes here, he's not on our queen, and rook here attacking our queen, and the queen is safe here from getting attacked, and we still have the same ideas. But he played queen c3, which is a more human move, and probably queen c3 is as good or better. Now his knight's attacked, so he played knight e7, very reasonable, and white played bc, white's up a pawn, white has the safer king, and black's rook is sort of weird on f5. Unfortunately, black played the best move here. I say unfortunate because it's f6. Never play f6. But you don't want to get mated on g7, so you get to play f6 sooner or later. Bishop e2, rook c5, trying to get his pawn back. Knight d2, defending his pawn. Bishop b7, pretending to attack this, but not really, because rook g1, so you can't really take that pawn. Rook h4, put it in h. So this pawn's defended a trillion times. And now my rook can go to g4, I can play h6, etc. He played e5, reasonable. Knight e4, attacking the rook. I think you have to take it. Rook takes. White's just up a pawn and better. Queen e6, queen d2, rook a5, which is a blunder, threatening this pawn, but he's losing anyway. And this loses very quickly. Rook check, and he played king f7. He plays king h8, then queen d7 is winning pretty quickly. Because you're just going to get checkmated on the king side. So he played king f7, then h6, threatening rook g7 check, and then queen d8 mate. So knight g6 is forced. And this is a very nice move. And to give you a hint, if you've seen the game, you might remember. To give you a hint, it's reminiscent of Steinitz von Bartholeben, Hastings 1895. I hope that wasn't too much of a hint. Another hint would be, if you've seen the movie Airplane, you can get it. Yeah, people in the chat got it. They get all the references. This guy said, ever considered playing an actual game on stream? That's fine.
That has happened.
If you guys get the Airplane reference, you're pretty smart. I don't think anybody could possibly get the Airplane reference. Only I get it.
I don't know. Go ahead.
In the movie Airplane, he says, "What's your clearance, Clarence?" And then he says, "What's your vector, Victor?" So he said, "What's your clearance, Clarence?" You have to make a clearance sacrifice, like in Steinitz von Bartholeben. So he played c5.
I saw that the bishop could get on that diagonal, but I thought that the queen could move. So it was...
Yeah, opening this up is really good. Thanks for the 10 subs. Sick mofo. You a sick mofo.
Yay, sick mofo.
Okay, so rook takes c6. c5 is forced, which defends there, wins the pawn back. Queen d7 check. And now this is going to enter the game with decisive effect. And you can't let him play rook takes h7. So you have to go back here. Rook takes a7. And this is really good. My bishop has such a nice diagonal now. And with your rook not on a5, you undefended a7. So white's up a pawn, and white has a big attack. And this pawn's annoying, and the king is trapped on the back rank. Now he tried to take the pawn, but trying is the first step to failure. Rook b4. Takes. Obviously, this rook is misplaced. Now white's going to double up on the bubble up. Play bishop here. Queen is a pawn. White's up a pawn. White has the better rooks and the safer king. Rook b7. And in this position, black resigned. You can't take on g2 because you get checkmated. Always repeat. And then checkmate. Don't checkmate right away. So with the rooks on the 7th rank, the bishop can come here later. I can queen my a pawn. Black resigned. Very nice game from Fabi. I don't think Fabi did anything wrong. I think Fabi just played great. And I think in the early middle game, the transition from the opening to the middle game, Gukesh lost his way. Gukesh not having a good tournament. The truth hurts. I did a lecture on Gukesh saying how great he was, then he lost to Fabi. America.